Hey, this is Gina Grad.
Hi, this is Teresa Strasser.
Hi, everyone. This is Mike Errico.
Hey there. This is Casey Cavalier.
I'm Rocky Rose.
And you are listening to The Jay Franze Show.
Lucky you.
Welcome to The Jay Franze Show. A behind-the-curtain look at the entertainment industry with insights you can't pay for and stories you've never heard. Now, here's your host, Jay Franze.
Well, hello and welcome to the show. I am Jay Franze, and this is your backstage pass to the entertainment industry. This week, we get to talk with a recording artist and a radio personality. We get to talk with Jill Winter. We'll talk to her about what it was like opening up for Twisted Sister, her new single, Alarm, and we'll discuss her time on the radio. Now, Jill is not only an amazing talent that can play multiple instruments, but she is just an all-around great person, and I can't wait to talk with her tonight. So if you would like to join in, comment, or fire off any questions, please head over to jayfranze.com. Now, let's get started. Jill, my friend, how are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for having me.
I am looking forward to this. I've been looking forward to it for some time now, but I just have to do it. I have to jump right in and ask, what was it like opening up for Twisted Sister?
It was a lot of fun. I had the opportunity to be their direct support in a former band quite a few times, and we shared the same booking agent at the time, so we got all access. I mean, I literally stood side stage, like we'd finish playing, and I would stand on the stage this close away. Like if I'd come out an inch, you would have seen me, and just heard them pound. AJ Pirro, may he rest in peace. Such an underrated drummer. Got to see his drum solos and feel the whole stage shake. That man, I will say, a rock star and a gentleman. So cool. Sat down, would break bread with you, talk to you, tell stories. All of the guys. Really, really nice, really cool to us, and so many fun memories.
That has to be pretty cool. I mean, when you're up on the stage like that, looking at a band like that, what's going through your mind?
It's just excitement because you still have the adrenaline high from performing yourself, but now you're watching your childhood heroes perform so close, and you, again, get that all-access view to everything that's going on, and it's just a phenomenal experience. It's wild to know all the words and be able to sing along and jump along and just have fun and rock out. It's phenomenal.
That's awesome.
It was a privilege.
I think of the same thing. I mean, you look up to your heroes, right? When I was younger,
Right.
and I'll say younger, in the 80s,
Nice.
and we got to go backstage in Maine to see Van Halen and Dokken and all those bands.
Cool.
And like yourself, I got to stand on the side of the stage and witness the whole thing. And it is a different experience when you're on the stage like that. But it's even more of an experience when you're actually playing. I mean, how do you even get a gig like that in the first place?
Happenstance. I mean, a lot of the industry, as you know, is part talent, a lot more of who you know.
Right.
And we just happened to know the right people at the right time, and it all came together, thankfully, and got the gigs. But even prior to that, I started playing bars and clubs when I was 14 because my older brother is a musician. So it was just so easy for me to follow his pathway. And, oh, you're Little Winter. You're Mike Winter's little sister. Oh, yeah, sure, no problem.
That's funny.
So
Little Winter. And I guess you could say that too. I've seen the photographs next to Dee Snider, and you are half their size.
I don't even pretend. A lot of people my size will lie about their height. I am 4'11" with no shoes on.
There you go.
No, why am I going to say 5 feet? Who's it going to help? It doesn't give me any more height.
My daughter does that to me. We talk about height because she's growing fast, and she's only 13 years old, and she's past my wife already.
Wow.
And she's coming close to me, and she'll say, how tall are you? And I'll say 6 foot. She goes, nah, you're probably more like 5'11". I'm like, thanks, babe. I love it. Love you too.
Exactly. My kids too. They're creeping up on me. They're 8 and 10. But again, we're a short people. My husband isn't tall. He's about 5'7". So it is what it is.
Hey, why not, right?
Exactly.
So what got you into that type of music in the first place?
Again, my brother, He's 7.5 years older than I am, and I just grew up. My first vinyl record was Motley Crue, Too Fast for Love.
Oh, yeah.
And Tommy Lee's the reason I started playing drums. I mean, my brother is a guitar player and a singer, and I was always around stringed instruments. But I heard Tommy Lee play and put his personality and everything that he's done, in the later years aside. Just his playing was fun. Always solid, always spot on, but a showman. And I just fell in love with it.
No, that makes sense. But another one you have is Eddie Money. What was it like playing with Eddie Money?
Eddie Money, again, it was a different band. I was playing bass in that band. I played drums, bass, and guitar respectively in different bands.
It's crazy.
So just happenstance. You learn to adapt to situations, and the best project that comes your way, yeah, sure, I can do this. Why not? And you just make it work. And Eddie Money, I was playing bass and the now sadly defunct Roseland Ballroom in New York City. Clearly from my accent, I'm originally from New York.
We'll let that slide.
But it was Mr. Boston.
Right.
It was time to get away from the cold. Just such a historical place to play, and the opportunity presented itself, and he was very cool. Again, I have to say 99.9% of celebrities that I've met have, at the very least, been cool.
Yeah.
At the very least. I mean, some nicer than others. Some will talk more than others. Some will interact more than others. But 99.9% have always been cool. And I just love that humble kind of feeling about people.
Yeah, I've spent 30 years in the industry myself, and I spent it on the other side of the glass. So my playing chops were not good enough to play in a band past high school.
But that's okay, because we need those kind of chops.
Well, thank you.
We need the engineers and the lighting directors and the roadies.
Right.
I thanked everybody from people at the hotels, the staff, to the sound men or women, everybody that helped. It takes a village to do this.
It really does. And I don't think the average person understands how many people are behind the scenes.
No.
But my world was behind the glass. I was a recording and mix engineer.
Nice.
Worked out in Nashville with country artists for quite a long time. But like yourself, I've met a ton of people, and almost all of them were great people.
Right.
There was the occasional person that I like to say had a bad day. But other than that, they were pretty good people.
Yes.
So you say Eddie Money was a good person. I mean, was it a different feel playing with Eddie Money than Twisted Sister?
It was, because when I opened for Eddie Money, that was just a one-off show in a cool band. We had a lot of fun. And it was like right on the cusp of, and I don't want to date myself, but it was like right on the cusp of everybody having great camera phones, and you don't want to ask the guy for an autograph, and so there wasn't really any taking pictures or anything like that. But you went up and talked to him, and he was a cool guy, and he chatted, and may he rest in peace. He was very talented, very cool. It's sad that a lot of people have passed, but an artist or band like Twisted Sister, where we had more access to them and really got to know them as people, at least some of them. Same thing with Mark Mendoza, the bass player. Very underrated. Sometimes I would stand right in front of him, right below stage, and watch his fingers. You probably can't see that, but watch his fingers and
speed.
Just the speed. And people don't realize it because they're more laid back. He's an excellent singer as well. A lot of the harmonies were all him. Another guy would sit down and break bread with you, tell stories. I mean, just a lot of fun to be around. So I had a little bit more access to them in that respect.
Yeah.
Whereas with, Eddie Money, it was like, oh, thanks so much for having us. Great set, great to meet you.
See ya.
Right.
No, but I mean, I've always heard he was a nice guy, but I've never had the opportunity to work with him. So it's good to hear that, especially now that he's passed. It's good to, if it has to come to an end, at least it's on a positive note.
Exactly.
Now, you've worked with a couple more, one of them, Bret Michaels. So
yes.
How was that?
Again, very cordial, very nice, very happy to take photos. There are some on my website. Just a really nice, down-to-earth guy. Again, professional, did what he had to do, would talk to everybody, go down the line. His band as well, because it wasn't opening for Poison, it was opening for Bret Michaels' solo band.
Right.
But they were just all cool guys, willing to say hi, chat a bit, take pictures. the show is great. That one was actually at a casino in upstate New York.
Oh, yeah.
And
Which
the place
one?
was packed. The Turning Stone Casino.
Oh, yeah, I see it there.
And ironically, I didn't even realize until the show was approaching, I went to college with someone that worked there.
Oh,
and she had reached out to me and said, "Oh, you're going to be there. That's awesome." And so it was really cool. And again, just really, I know it sounds like, such a showbiz plain answer, but like just a nice guy, amazing experience. We opened for him twice, actually. We also opened it for him at Mulcahy's in Wantagh. And just really down to earth, cool. Hey, how you doing? Thanks for being here. Just really nice.
Yeah, he's another one. He lives in Nashville, and I had one of my students actually go work on his project where he was working with country artists, recording, I think it was Every Rose Has Its Thorn as a country song. And
Cool.
Nothing but positive feedback from everybody, so that's great.
I'm laughing because you say country, and, country is cool. But there are some things that should never be countrified, so to speak. And I'll never forget, I had a gig where I was playing, but I was also friends with the LD, the lighting director for John Mellencamp. And this is when he went through his country phase.
Right.
I mean, Meg Ryan and his parents were sitting behind me. Nobody should ever do John Mellencamp's Jack and Diane countrified. Just don't.
Well, I've kind of, I hate to say it, but I kind of felt the same way with Every Rose Has Its Thorn. I mean, it worked. And if you probably only heard it as a country song, it would be great.
Right.
But knowing where it came from and how it came about and hearing it that way for so long, it wasn't the same to me when it was a country song.
No, definitely when it's a beloved song that everybody knows.
Right.
It's really difficult to kind of tweak the genre, especially to something he really countrified it. And I was just like, wow, this is interesting.
We had a guest a little while back named Chris Franze, and Chris Franze is on the road now with Jason Bonham, and you've also had an experience with Jason Bonham.
Yes.
I went to see them when they came to town here and got to go backstage and meet Jason. It was right when he had his grandson.
Oh, nice.
We talked because I have young kids as well, and so we had something to bond over, but he was a super nice guy. Was your experience the same?
It was. This was going back to my college days playing. I was playing drums at the time. I mean, it'd be a drummer and open for Jason Bonham.
Right.
The funniest thing that I remember about that time was the venue making us sign a disclaimer and a waiver saying that we would not cover any Led Zeppelin songs.
Okay.
Like I would ever go up and cover a Led Zeppelin song for John Bonham's son.
Yeah.
But we were happy to sign it. And again, great experience. The one bad experience, and I'll never name names, but let's just say this person's band won't get reunited with them for any amount of money in the world. That's the only experience. And I had no gig with this person. It was just a meeting, and I can understand why.
No, understood. But now I've never heard of a band making you sign something like that, but I can understand it. But like you said, who would do it? Who would?
Right. Well, I guess you had the wise guys that are like, oh, I'm going to show up Jason Bonham. Like, okay, sure. You do that.
Yeah, have fun. No, I mean, that was the first time I ever saw him play, and he was an amazing performer, not just as a drummer, but just with the audience and just the way he interacted with people. He was just a very nice guy, and it was a good time. And they played nothing but Zeppelin songs. So it was pretty cool. And
honestly, this was so many years ago, I don't even remember the set list, but there's a good chance, since we did have to sign the waiver, that it might have been a Zeppelin set.
Yeah, I'm sure. They just don't want conflict. I get that.
Right.
Well, you have a new single coming out now, and it's taking quite a turn. So can you tell us about that?
Sure. I've always loved melody. Right. I mean, my roots stem from pop rock. But when I moved to Florida and started the broadcasting and everything else, I was still writing music. Sometimes I'll send my tracks to engineers and, go back and forth. But again, I have kids now. I want to be home for them. That was my choice. And then as I got more into production and engineering myself, and I still send my tracks out. This one is featuring DJ Bingington, who produces my radio show as well. But he's super talented engineer. And I said, I need some stuff done on this. You want to help me out on it? He didn't even want to take credit. but I forced them. And it's just easier, honestly, to record EDM by yourself instead of having to pull out instruments. I mean, I have behind me, I think you can see the cymbal. I have an electronic drum kit, and I have played drums on some of my other tracks. I've sent them to other engineers to, kind of settle everything in. But EDM is easier to just do by yourself and use VSTs and plugins and things of that nature and get it done quick, because I don't have as much free time as I used to.
Oh, yeah.
It's being a wife, being a mother, keeping a house, getting the kids to school, getting the kids home from school, their extracurricular activities, in between working remotely as a broadcaster, doing my podcast, which is TV and movie reviews. So music for me now is sporadic, a couple of songs a year, maybe, if that year I'm feeling it. It's when the mood strikes. So this one is definitely a little bit different, and I had a lot of fun with it.
Well, let's talk about that for a minute. I mean, I guess before we do, let me just point out, it's great that you're a musician. It's great that you can play all these instruments, but how can you play all these instruments? I mean, how can you go from drums to guitar, or from drums? I mean, drums and bass, I know the relationship,
right,
but it's a whole different animal. How can you do that?
Well, drums, I, again, just fell in love with, and I started that in my junior high school band. And this is a tip that I still give young kids to this day. Practice with pencils. If you can use your foot and both hands and get the coordination down for the hi-hat, the snare, while just doing the kick on the floor, then move over to the drum set. And that's how I started playing drums. And it was essentially, I was self-taught. And as I said, my brother always had stringed instruments around, guitars and bass. So I would just always pick them up and kind of fiddle around. And the next thing you know, I was playing them.
Do you think the value in that comes from being young? When you're young, it's easier to pick instruments up. When you're young, it's easier to devote yourself to something like that.
Yes. I think when we're young, our minds and brains are sponges. I think we have more free time. I always took whatever project I was in uber seriously, always band rehearsal, didn't cancel, unless it was absolutely necessary, always reliable. And I think those values are important in any career where people depend upon you. But being young definitely helped with the versatility. I mean, the bass gig I kind of fell into. I was in college, and it was a female trio I was in called Neutron Cafe. And we were in Metal Edge magazine a few times. And I went to college with the drummer. And she came up to me and said, you have a really cool look. What do you do? She's like, we need a bass player. And I was like,
sure.
Yeah, sure. And the producer sat down and taught me every song. And then I just walked in and played every song, and that was that. And that gig turned into my following gig with the Jim Walsh Band, where that producer was Steve Amond, was a great mentor of mine. He was the guitar player of the Jim Walsh Band. So he said, hey, we need a bass player. Neutron Cafe had fallen apart. And he said, I'll teach you the songs, no problem. Okay, sat down, went into the rehearsal with Jim Walsh. All right, what do you want to play? I said, I learned them all, name them. And we just went down the list, and they were like, wow. And not that I'm, a virtuoso, but I was able to just get the parts done and put on the show.
Dedication for
exactly.
Sure. I mean, I can see that too. I mean, I started off playing one drum, a snare drum in school, and realized I didn't have that type of coordination. So I switched over to keyboards and piano, and I did that all the way through college. And that was my instrument to graduate college was piano. Nice. As much as my brain could know what to do, my fingers just couldn't do it. So I then, like yourself, about college age, I was asked to play bass in a band, and I did, not knowing anything about it. And that instrument actually felt comfortable to me. It actually felt like it belonged where the others didn't. That was where I felt most comfortable.
Bass is a very fun instrument. I mean, I wish I played piano. I can tinker out a melody and a chord, but again, 4'11", I have small hands. And even in college, I had to take a piano class, and the professor was like, you can't even make an octave. Right. Like, he's like, forget it. Like, don't even worry about it.
Yeah,
so I'll tinker out things.
Your hands will be like
but
this all day.
Right. I can fake it I can sit down and play for 30 seconds and have somebody think I can't play piano.
No.
I wish I could.
Yeah, I wish I could too. I mean, and I remember Journey's Faithfully was the song that I used as my graduation piece. And
That's
I
a great
played
song.
it, and I love that song. It's a great song, but no, I mean, that's the only thing I could play on piano.
Now, how do you feel about assuming, because almost everybody on the planet has seen The Sopranos,
Oh, yeah.
how do you feel about Don't Stop Believin' being that last song in the end
right.
scene?
Sopranos, great show. Loved it. Being an Italian from the North,
Right.
but it was fun. It was a good time. It was a good show. Ending on that song, I didn't have a problem with it. It didn't bother me. I liked it. I know a lot of people found some heartache over it, but I was not one of those people. I liked it.
I agree. Neither was I. I thought it was a great ending.
So your song, Alarm, the songwriting process, you say you like melodies.
Mm-hmm.
Did you start with a melody?
I started actually playing with some new plugins. Sometimes I'll just sit down, with an acoustic guitar and write a song. Like my song Anthem, that's a pop rock song. I sat down with an acoustic guitar. Same thing with 1978, another pop rock song, or Not So Nice, another pop rock song. But then people started approaching me to do collaborations, and they were more EDM focused and EDM centric. I would say, all right, send me a track. And if a melody would pop into my head, I would happily work with them. So I released a few songs that way as collaborations, like Take Me Higher, In the Air, things like that. And I kind of got the feel, but I always revert back to not wanting to emulate anyone. So I try not to listen too much to current things when I'm writing. So if I buy a new plugin and I'm playing around in software and I get a sound or a beat or, and I start messing around, then I'm like, oh, okay, there's something here. And then the melody will come from me that way. But sometimes, again, like I said, 1978 was the first song I wrote once I kind of got back into music. That hook just wrote itself in my head and wouldn't leave me alone until I wrote the song. So finally, I just picked up a guitar and wrote the song, reached out to an engineer, recorded tracks back and forth, and that was that. So my process differs depending upon what the genre is and what the idea is, and if I'm working alone or collaborating. So Alarm was just me kind of messing around in plugins and going, okay, there's something here.
Right. You woodshed with your tools and you come up with ideas, and
Right.
That's a great approach.
Thank you.
I know you said that producing this was different because it's something you can do more on your own.
Right.
So in traditional music, you usually have a team of people behind you. You have the producer, the engineer, and so on. But doing this on your own, what kind of software are you using?
Well, I used to use Pro Tools, but it just got very cumbersome and they just kept raising the prices. And a lot of people, including engineers I was using, were telling me to switch to Reaper. So I switched to Reaper, but I put a Pro Tools theme on it. A lot of time, if I take a shot of me working on something, people go, oh, is that Pro Tools? No, it's Reaper with a Pro Tools theme. Here's a little tip, guys. You can Google for any DAW if you want to work in Reaper, but you like the look of something else. Because I also, for radio, it's different. For radio drops, if I have to master something, I go to FL Studio. So it really depends what I'm doing. But for music, I like Reaper. And I've actually been playing a lot with the Phil Spicer plugins. They're pretty new. And you hear a lot of them on Alarm.
That's pretty cool. I laugh because I'm a diehard Pro Tools guy. I've been with Pro Tools since the start. Working in the studios in Nashville, that's all that was used.
Right.
Now, outside of the major studios, in the production studios or in the home studios, which in Nashville, there's a lot of home studios. Every major artist has their own home studio.
Yes.
Most of them would go towards Pro Tools, but a lot of the fringe ones would go towards things like Cubase or Logic.
Right.
So a lot of the actual keyboard performers would choose Logic.
Well, I was always PC based. I never fell into the iOS syndrome. And a lot of people that I work with, just in broadcasting and everything, everybody has an iPhone. But I swear by my Galaxy, and I know it's a better OS. And I'm always like, should I switch just to make it easier? And I'm like, but I love the stylus on the Galaxy. So I'm like, well, maybe if iPhone comes out with a stylus attached, I don't want a third party,
Right.
this will work with the iPhone. I want the little hole that you pop it into and pop it out. But that's why I don't use Logic, because they're Mac-based programs.
So out of all your songs, do you have any favorites?
Ooh, that's a tough one. I love them all because, as you know, they're all my babies.
Right.
Alarm, I think, is really cool. It's different than anything I've done before. I like Take Me Higher a lot. I like In the Air a lot. They have that bittersweet feeling, and I enjoy that feeling, that like glimmer of hope, even if everything isn't perfect. It just gives you that little feel of excitement and hope. But I love Anthem too, because I was very literal. The chorus is, and I'm going to pound on my drum. Now, I played the drum parts for that song. So it's double entendre, where it's, you have people that'll say a line like that, I'm going to pound on my drum to make a point, but I literally pounded on my drum.
Right. That's pretty cool. Speaking of drums, do you have a favorite instrument?
If I were asked cold to sit in with a band, which I have been in the past, I'll go right for the drums.
Yeah.
Because drums were my first instrument, so that's the easiest for me to just fall into the pocket and be comfortable with. I don't really know music theory. I know it sounds right. I know it doesn't. If you ask me to play a G chord, a D chord, of course I know that.
Right.
But I'm not classically trained, so I don't, if you say, oh, play in the key of C, or, well, no sharps, no flats, but play, in the key of B minor, what are the chords?
I think drums would probably be the easiest to sit in and on just for that purpose alone. There are, you're not playing by chords, you're just playing by time signature and tempo. So I think that's a pretty cool way.
Exactly. And it's fun. People don't expect it from somebody my size.
No, I wouldn't expect it, but you are a ball of fire. I'll give you that.
Thank you.
It's pretty cool that you're able to do all this stuff. I'm very, very jealous of your ability to play musical instruments.
Well, I'm jealous of your expertise in engineering because, again, I'm trying to get there, but there are only so many hours in a day.
It's tough, right?
Yes.
Well, let's move on to the radio side of the world. You're a radio personality. Sure. How did that even come about?
Again, it's who you know. So I'm in Florida. I'm releasing music occasionally, and I'm talking about things. I had posted a photo of me with my Charvel guitar, and somebody from overseas was like, I really like your personality. I have this online station. Would you consider doing a show? And I'm like, I don't know. Now, my business partner and producer, DJ Bingington, we've been working together for umpteen years already. So I go to him and I'm like, this guy Jamie wants me to do a podcast. What do you think? And he said, I think it's a good direction. Let's do it. So, of course, we went above and beyond and started that way. And, we're putting beds in and doing things that most people, I'm going to do a podcast. Right. And they talk into their phone and wonder why nobody cares. Right. So it started with that. Now, the FM happened because in one of my previous bands, we had a remix done by Club Jumpers. Now, for anyone that doesn't know, Club Jumpers are a brother duo, Billboard charting multiple times. And we had that remix done, and I stayed in touch with Dan Matthews, one of the brothers, and he reached out to me and he said, hey, Jill, I see you're doing radio. I said, yeah, I'm dabbling in a podcast. Well, I'm the program director for Rhythm 105.9 FM in Sacramento.
Here you go.
I have a spot. What do you think? Okay, I'll get back to you. Hey, Binge, what do you think? Yeah, we're taking the FM.
That's awesome.
So that's how that, and then he's program director for Jams 99.3 FM as well. So hence the syndication. It's all who you know. And being diligent, continuing to put out good product.
Right, of course.
We go above and beyond all the time just so people enjoy what we do.
Well, were you nervous the first time you did it?
Oh, of course. I was completely green. It took a lot of direction and teachings and don't say this, don't say that, say this, say that. Not even about topics, but just a lot of people now, they'll come on, hey, what's up? As a radio host, you don't really want to do drops going, hey guys, what's up? That was one of my first lessons. But once you teach it to me, it sticks with me forever.
Yeah.
So I was green for a while, but now we're on our 4th year on FM. So I'd like to think I've gotten better.
So describe the show, the dynamic between you and your producer.
My producer is one of my best friends. He's like a brother. We, again, work remotely. I left New York. I left everybody because I didn't like the cold. And I said to my husband, if our kids are ever going to go to school, we better move to a warmer climate because once the temperature drops and the snow hits the ground, I'm not leaving the house. So we work remotely. Thank God for technology. He's a tech genius on so many levels. I mean, like I said, master engineer, producer, computers. He maintains all my computers. Just make sure everything's clean, everything's installed well, does the checks. So we have a rhythm of working really well together, and it just all falls into place. And then I work remotely, so the shows, like I said, go out in California and in Kansas, and it's just like a well-oiled machine.
So you say you work remotely. Is it out of your home, or do you guys work in a
Yes.
small production studio? So you're home.
I'm home.
Yeah, okay.
Right.
And did you have to invest in a certain level of gear to be able to do it?
I had pretty much everything I needed. I mean, I keep upgrading certain things, but I bought a new microphone. I have a vocal microphone that I use. It's an XLR, but for the broadcasting stuff, I use the USB. But it wasn't a huge investment in gear just because I was still doing music. So what you see right now is my home studio, but you're not seeing the other side with the acoustic paneling and my big screen because I'm using a laptop. My desktop, I generally don't use the camera. So it's very high.
Right.
And I'm short. So you would have gotten like a stupid view of me that you would have been like, can you fix that? So I switched to the laptop just for this, but you're not seeing the backside, which again, I post photos quite often. Acoustic paneling, the monitors, the MIDI controller. I moved my guitars out of the way just so there wasn't clutter in the background, but
Nice. Again, I love it. I love the fact that you dedicate it and go all the way. Like you don't take anything to the halfway mark. You take it all the way to the end. But you mentioned technology, and that's a good thing to talk about is
Sure.
I know technology changes so fast. So just a handful of years ago, you wouldn't be able to do what you're doing now working on the radio from your home. So where do you see radio heading these days?
That's a good question. I think it's going to continue to be remote because it's easy enough to do. And as long as everyone doing it is competent enough to use the equipment, why pay for studio space? Like you said, almost everybody in this industry has a home studio.
Oh, yeah.
So if you don't need the overhead, I don't really see why anybody would want to spend that extra money, especially since there are so many options nowadays with, Sirius radio and podcasts and Spotify, digital streaming. People have options. So I think it's, prudent probably to save as much money as you can to put it into the product.
Do you find any challenges with technology?
Ironically, I always say technology and computers hate me because I'll be the one, I will never forget. I was recording an album with a band in New York City at the Cutting Room, one of the top recording studios. I mean, there were days that John Legend was recording in the other studio. David Bryan was recording for his Broadway show and traveled all the way in from Queens, and all the computers went down. And I'm like, technology just hates it like that. Those are the kinds of things. My drivers always go wacky. I know people are going to say, well, switch to a Mac. Maybe one day, but
I'm biting my tongue. Don't worry about it.
It's okay. It's, we're adults. We can have debates and differing opinions, but it's just things like that, like the little things that kind of mess me up. And I'll call it, binge, I need you on TeamViewer. Fix this, please. It's like, okay.
That's funny, too. I know I wife, she's a PC person, and she won't change for anything, no matter how many times I try to get her to switch. Or like I have, MacBook Pros just laying around for different purposes, and she just won't touch it.
Right.
So
I've touched them. I've seen them. I've gone to the Apple store. I actually bought one and returned it because I wound up liking a different laptop better, and it was better suited for what I was doing at the time. So I'm never say never for me. I'm not this diehard, unwilling to change. It's just what has suited me and has worked well so far and compatible with all the gear that I have at the moment. I never say never.
I've had a PC in the past, too. I had a custom built one for the studio that I had in New York, and it worked. It did its job.
Right.
I mean, every computer these days, they all do the same thing. So
Exactly.
I like the simple fact that my MacBook Pro ties into my Mac Mini or into my Mac, and the iPhone, the Apple Watch, all the stupid little things that they sucker me into, and I have every piece of them. And yes, it's a sickness.
Right. Well, that's the thing. Again, I'm on an Android. I'm on Galaxy. I hate wearing anything on my wrist. Even my wedding rings, I take off when I go to sleep.
Yep.
I don't wear jewelry to sleep. I don't like that feeling. And I think that comes from years of playing instruments on stage. I mean, in my later years of gigging, I would wear, the gloves, the fingerless gloves, and the sleeve, that kind of stuff, just for aesthetic.
That's image.
But yeah, exactly. You have to look the part. And people always, always, always comment on photos of me on social media. Why don't you smile? Why don't you smile? Why don't you smile? And my response is always the same thing. I'm a really happy person. Listen, I'm breathing. I'm happy. I'm fortunate. I love my life, my family, the whole thing, everything I do. But I was in rock bands for so many years. You don't smile in a rock band. Yeah. You don't smile on stage. You give the glare. Right. And that's just the thing.
You're speaking my language. My family will not let it go. All my older relatives, you never smile. I'm like, I just don't know how. Sorry, I just don't know how to smile.
Right, and then it feels like that fake cheesy smile, say cheesy. Right. My kids make me. I love to laugh. Yeah, I love to laugh. I will laugh hysterically at things, but I'm not taking a photo when that happens. Right. So people always think I'm just so serious and refuse to smile. I'm cracking up all the time. You just have to make me laugh. I have a dry, sarcastic sense of humor.
Thank you very much, my friend. Thank you.
I'm back in your good graces now.
Yeah, you're back. You're back. See?
Okay.
With all the success and with everything you've had going on, what's been your just top, memorable moment?
Seeing my name up in lights in Times Square. Oh, wow. And that's professionally. As having kids obviously is my greatest achievement. But one of the Twisted gigs was opening at the Best Buy Theater. At that point, it was called the Best Buy Theater in Times Square. And seeing my name up in lights on the marquee, that was a great moment for me.
That would do it
professionally.
Right? Yeah, no, I could see that. I haven't been in Times Square in a long time. I'm sure it's changed like every place else has changed so much, but I haven't been there in a long time. I
haven't been either.
That had to be awesome. What was going through your mind? You see your name up there. I know it's exciting, but
sure.
Describe it.
It's just. There are a lot of artists. There are so many different degrees of success. Now, I consider myself successful because I'm happy in what I do. I don't wake up every day going, I have to do this. I'm fortunate. Not everybody has a loving, supportive family and can work remotely and do what they want to do and be on FM radio 5 days a week on 2 different stations and still have time to do other projects and spend time with the family. So it's just an amazing experience to be able to do those things. And seeing my name in Times Square was absolutely phenomenal. But New York has changed. A lot of the great clubs and venues have closed.
Oh, yeah.
BB King's, I played Pyramid Club, I played Coney Island High, I played Webster Hall. I mean, the list just goes on. And I've played so many places, I've forgotten half of them. So it's just, part of that New York history and that music scene that you become meshed in. And you have those war stories of like, wow, the great memories. And I saw this one there and I played here and I did this there. So it was a lot of fun. But again, as you said, New York changed and a lot of those places, unfortunately, are defunct. Kenny's Castaways. It's sad.
Oh, yeah. It is sad. And I mean, the music business in general is just a crazy business. I wouldn't wish it on anybody. I would, unless you feel like you're just going to melt away without it. Don't even try it.
Yeah, I tell my kids the same thing. Study hard. You want to play an instrument or do something creative, do it as a hobby. Yeah. I'll support you fully.
My daughter wanted a guitar, and we went out and bought her a Stratocaster, and then, I kid you not, 2 weeks later, she entered a drawing and won another one. The same exact guitar.
Wow.
So now she's got 2 Strats at home.
That's great.
Pretty cool.
I did try to teach them a bit. We bought my son a scaled down real drum set, not one of these toys, give me a headache, you can't tune anything. And I told him, we will rock you. You laugh because it's so true. It's like the out of tune. I mean, he's playing the recorder in school now, and I hear him practicing downstairs. It's not bad, and his vocal pitch is actually pretty good, even though my daughter likes singing better. But I told him, we will rock you. And then he just wants to bang around like the old Brady Bunch, Bobby Brady episode, just banging on things. And I'm like, I can't. I'm not a teacher to begin with. If you're not going to focus and learn, that's it. They want to run before they can crawl, and that's how I am.
Of course.
But I stuck with it.
And that's how you become successful. I mean, there's all sorts of ways people become successful in the past they take to get there, and we're all people, right? So what kind of setbacks have you had along the way?
Are you familiar with the term LSD and not the drug? Lead singer disorder.
All right.
It was always the lead singer that broke up the band. And I'm not someone that needs to hog all of the attention. I can collaborate and lift other people up. But you put all your blood, sweat, and tears into a project just to have singers go, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm going to try another career. I want to go solo. This isn't fun anymore. And it's just so frustrating. That's why I started singing on my solo releases because, unless it's, again, like a one-off with someone who's into it and just wants to collaborate. Here, I wrote a track. Let me send it to you. If you can write something to it, great. You sing it. Fine. I'm good with that. But it's just so heartbreaking every time you're so close. And then the singer, it's always the singer, doesn't want to do it anymore for whatever reason.
I'm with you 100%. Even in the recording world, you record a fantastic album and then the singer has something that they're struggling with, whether they want it out too soon or they want to wait. It's not finished in their mind, or there's always some sort of struggle. And I get it. They're vulnerable and they're exposing themselves, but we need to find that balance.
Oh, of course.
We talk about balance. I mean, you're on the radio, you're producing music, you have a family, you are a mother, which is, God bless you, that's probably the hardest job in the world. I watched my wife. I couldn't do it.
We're fortunate. We raised our kids the way we were raised. So if nothing else, my children will have manners and be polite.
Oh, yeah. Well, I like to think mine will do that, and I think they do. I think overall they're very good, and we live in the South. It's yes, sir, yes, ma'am, and that type of stuff. And they're very respectful of people. With all of that, I mean, that's a balancing act within itself. And then on top of that, you're all over social media. So how do you balance it all? And then what is your go-to way of promoting yourself?
Balance becomes routine. Social media is so important. And again, I have a great team behind me, and I keep mentioning, and he hates it, but I keep mentioning DJ Bingington because he's the, quiet guy behind the scenes that doesn't want any recognition and won't use his real name. But he helps manage my career so efficiently with the PR team, and I know what's going on where other people may not pay as close attention. Some people think posting 10 times a day is helpful instead of having the realization that the algorithm isn't going to like you posting 10 times a day and people are going to mute you. So it's a balance within the balance. It's knowing what to do, how to do it, when to do it. And I also, it's not fake. I like to exude positivity. And I find that people enjoy that, especially on X, formerly Twitter.
Twix.
People, yeah, exactly. Twix. Tricks are for kids. People love that good morning post. Thank you for being so positive. I don't think I'm any sort of Pied Piper. I don't like to call them followers. I call people my friends.
Right.
I'm just a person. I got lucky breaks and I work hard. So if I can make somebody else smile because I write good morning, have a great day, I respond to people. And I've had people comment that they appreciate that. It's fun for me. It just, as long as you continue to love what you do, it's one of my favorite hashtags, do what you love what you do. I think you can't go wrong. I'm not saying that I never have a bad day or an off day, but I'm not going to yell at somebody on social media. You know, I also have the filter of, okay, yeah, this person is off or just trying to get a rise out of me, and I just ignore it.
Right. Well, you say you're just you. You do what you do, and that's what you put out there.
Right.
And I believe that. As a follower of yours or as a connection of yours.
Thank you.
Friend of yours.
I'd like to say a friend.
There you go. Even if you're a New Yorker, that's fine.
Listen, Boston, you're going to be shoveling.
I know. I get it all the time. With all that, I think you do it with authenticity. I mean, I think that's...
Thank you.
I mean, you seem like you have a genuine following, a genuine group of people that enjoy your content. So, I mean, with that content, let me ask you this. What do you hope with the music content, the radio content, your social media content, what do you hope people take away from it?
Joy. I hope people walk away going, I'm glad I watched that video on TikTok. I'm glad I saw the photo on Threads or Insta or X. I'm just there to make people feel good. And yes, I do promote. I'm not going to say I don't promote my projects because that would be a blatant lie. But there are so many negative things in the world. Social media shouldn't be one of them. And I'm not going to contribute to that. So sometimes, I mean, my content varies. Sometimes I'll post stuff with the kids. We just took them to Legoland. I posted a video. We surprised them. My daughter squealed inaudibly. I didn't even know what she said, but that makes me happy and people enjoyed that. And then, I'm always posting on Facebook about the radio show times, and I'll share that on other social media as well. Every time a new podcast drops, every time a new song drops. The key is you can't shove things down people's throats. People don't want to see the same post. Hey, listen to my song XYZ. Hey, listen to my song XYZ. Hey, did you hear my song XYZ? They want to know you. They want to know your life. They want to know why you wrote XYZ or when it's coming out and what inspired it. And are you going to do a video? And, tell me about what your kids think. And, did you go out for lunch? Sometimes I'll post pizza and go, this is the closest to New York pizza I found in Florida.
That's not possible. That's the one
it's the
thing
water.
That I miss. I miss
it's
pizza.
The water.
I miss New York pizza. I miss roast beef from Boston. There's certain foods that I just miss.
But down here in Florida, we get good barbecue. So, and excellent weather. So it's worth the trade-off to me.
Yeah, that's true too. I lived in Florida for several years and it was beautiful. I enjoyed it. So I know the answer to this question. I do, but I'm going to ask it anyways because it's what we do here.
Okay.
We have this thing we call Unsung Heroes where we take a moment to recognize somebody who works behind the scenes, somebody who may have supported you along the way. Do you have anybody you'd like to shed a little light on?
DJ Bingington, who is going to cringe at that. But again, phenomenal supporter, phenomenal producer, engineer. I'm not necessarily the best at coming up with graphics for the album covers and things. Like we'll do the collaboration, the ping pong. And my mentor, growing up, starting in college musically, Steve Amond taught me a lot. It was keep your head down and work. Don't worry about what other people are doing. Don't worry about what anybody else is saying. Just keep your head down and work.
A big thanks to Jill for taking the time to share her stories with us. And as always, thank you for taking the time to hang with me here. I know I say it, but I really do appreciate it. If you could, follow, share, and connect on all the socials. You could even tell a friend. As always, I would appreciate that too. You can do all of this and find the links to everything mentioned over at jfranze.com/episode 57. Thanks again for listening, and I'll see you next week.
Thanks for listening to The Jay Franze Show. Make sure you visit us at jfranze.com. Follow, connect, and say hello. This episode has been brought to you by VR Knives, your source for 100% custom knives made by a true rock star. So, if you're in the market for a new piece of art, reach out to VR Knives. 407-421-5528. 407-421-5528.